Hello everybody and welcome to another reaction video, and today we're going to be looking at Anaal Nathrakh, a band I have heard of before but I cannot remember if I've ever actually heard any of their music. But anyway, as per usual, I did a little bit of research and I came up with Anaal Nathrakh are a British extreme metal band formed in 1999 in Birmingham, England. English band, yay! They are currently signed to Metal Blade Records. The band's name comes from Merlin's charm of making in John Boorman's 1981 film Excalibur. The band recorded 2 demos in 1999 which were later released as an album. The band to date has released 10 studio albums, 1 EP and 1 compilation album. The band has been praised for mixing elements of grindcore, black metal, death metal, industrial metal, and other genres. There you go. So, quite an interesting little bit of information there. Now, the track we're going to look at is called Obscene as Cancer, and upon looking up the lyrics for this, I found some information about the song as well. And it says, Obscene as Cancer was the first released single off the album, Obscene as Cancer, I believe. And it says here, the song draws a lot of inspiration from Wilfred Owen's famous war poem entitled Dulce et Decorum Est. I'm very slightly familiar with that name. In the liner notes of the album, it says, here we draw on one of the greatest and most emphatic poems to emerge from World War I, Dulce et Decorum Est, by Wilfred Owen. We won't provide a redundant commentary on the poem here. The work speaks for itself. There are plenty of analyses on the net. If you're not familiar with it, please check it out for yourself. The chorus is made up of lines from the poem. However, the verses, while original, share a similar point of view. So there you go. So the song itself is based on a pre-existing poem, and the chorus of the track comes from lines taken from the poem itself. I'm not familiar with the poem. I have heard of it, I think. It sounds familiar, but I couldn't say whether I've read it or not. But anyway, we'll get into the track now and see where this goes. So, Obscene as Cancer by Anaal Nathrakh. It's a bit of a sensory overload there. Now, to me, it seems a little bit messy, if that makes sense. It seems all over the place. You know, you can barely actually hear the vocals above the cacophonous sound of the music in the background. And it's just a lot of sound being thrown at you all at once. It's quite a sensory overload. Now, the lyrics I have here, it has some question marks throughout it where they've not been able to figure out exactly what's being said. in the track. I can't actually find any complete lyrics for the track, but it still basically leaves the same message. It starts out, what lying will be said, children guaranteed glory in death, freedom failing, sweet and fitting in their tombs they rest, squandered youth for the old terror of at the altar of, and then it's got a question mark because they couldn't say who it was. And then it says, bloodshot, all blind, they'll pay. Again, with numerous question marks peppered throughout. And then comes the chorus, which is the bit that's taken from the poem. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. And there's a little bit in the middle there, it says, they were f***ing children, leave your f***ing shelter. So, it's talking, as you'd expect, about war, given that it's a World War poem. And the opening lines, what lying will be said, children guaranteed glory in death. It's like the government's lying to people about war, sort of like, we need you to protect our country. And they're enlisting, basically enlisting children to go and die for their country, to fight for their own causes. You know, your politicians are all very well talking big about, you know, how we can win the war, this, that and the other, but they're not actually fighting the war. They're sending children, essentially, to go and fight their battles for them, because, let's face it, politicians are cowards. But, you know, they're being told, you know, if you die, it'll be glorious, and you'll die knowing that you've done right by your country. So, you know, it's basically the typical crap that people are told, that, you know, about fighting for your country. It's all glory and it's fantastic and what you're doing is great, whereas in reality what they're doing is invading someone else's country because they've got something that he wants, basically. And it says, in their tombs they rest, squandered youth. So again, you know, people wasting their life fighting battles that have got nothing to do with them. And then the chorus, it says, in all my dreams, and then there's that parenthetical where it says that they were children, leave your shelter. It's like, you know, all these people that died for your country, they were kids, you know, they should have been living their lives rather than going out and fighting your pointless battles for you. Get out of, you know, stop hiding and go and fight yourself, you know, do it yourself. Don't get other people to do it for you. Don't get other people killed for your own agendas. And yeah, in all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. So it's like, I can only imagine that's a description of seeing somebody that's, you know, he's killed on the battlefield, coming towards him, you know, choking on their own blood, you know, like having nightmares of all the people that he's killed in battle. So, you know, it's got quite a deep meaning to the song. I'm just not overly convinced of the performance yet. But we'll see what happens. We'll carry on with the track. Well, there you go. Obscene as Cancer by Anaal Nathrakh. Again, I have to say, not overly fond of the performance. It's very hectic and very messy. I've often mentioned when it comes to black metal, you know, I put them in different categories. You've got bathroom black metal, which is ones which are so badly produced it sounds like the vocalist is standing in someone's bathroom whilst the band is playing in another person's house. And then you've got the black metal where the lyrics and vocals and the music seem to come from two different songs, and then you've got the black metal where it all fits together perfectly. This, to me, is the sort of... It's the middle type. It's like you've got hectic and, you know, very energetic music, and then you've got the vocals, which you can barely hear as it is, but they don't fit with the music to my ear. You know, it doesn't... There's no cohesion between the two. It doesn't work very well for me. And to me, it just sounds like a mess. It doesn't coalesce. It's just, you know, it just doesn't work for my ear. But saying that though, I do like the song and what it means. You know, I like the meaning behind the song. I like what they're trying to portray through the track. So it carried on. How familiar? ? Blood. The converted terror moves closer to carnage. Secret nobility and gilded deceit. The poison bringing composure at last. The possibility and ocean of blood. His hanging face like a devil sick of sin. And then it goes into that chorus. In all my dreams. Before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning, and then there was a bit of a bridge which just seemed to have growling, screaming sounds over it, and then it goes through the chorus. Again, but the way it carried on there, you know, the converted terror moves closer to carnage. You know, war is already scary enough, and then you're seeing people in front of you getting absolutely decimated, torn apart and murdered, you know. And it even showed in the video for the song, you know, as a soldier in his little trench, you know, and towards the end of the video he wanted to blow his head off as they showed him sticking the gun in his mouth before the trench he was in got breached by whomever. So, you know, it's talking about the way people are tricked into going to war, the bullshit that they're told by the government to make them go to war. And there's a line there: secret nobility and gilded deceit, the poison bringing composure at last. So, you know, secret nobility and gilded deceit, that's essentially like these governments that are, you know, because they're rich, because they're powerful, they don't have to fight the wars, even though they're the ones that started it. You know, it's like getting into an argument and then getting your mate to go and beat the person up just because you can, you know, because you don't want to get your hands dirty even though it's your fault. And that's basically what it is. And again, it's like they're sending the children to war because, you know, why not? They're young, you know, that they'll survive. It's easier for them to survive because they're young. You know, it's also, you know, they're also dying for your pointless cause. So, you know, it's got a really great meaning. The song has got a fantastic meaning. I absolutely love it. And when you actually read the lyrics, they're well written. You know, it's a well written piece of music. Well written set of lyrics. But the unfortunate thing is you can hardly hear it over the cacophony of the music. And, you know, obviously they're doing something right. You know, they've released 10 albums, you know, they've got a big following. But for me, it just doesn't really work. Of course, I've always said, though, that I won't completely judge a band just by one example of their music. There might be other tracks of theirs that work better than this one. They might be more cohesive, you know, they might sort of fit together better than this one, you know, just for me, this track just wasn't very good, musically and vocally. You know, like it just didn't work very well for me, unfortunately. But I love the meaning of the song. So, you know, I will have to check something else out. Try that again. We'll have to check out something else of theirs at some time in the future, you know, to get a more rounded sort of experience of who they are as a band. But I'm going to leave that one as it is. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram. The links for those are in the description below. Just do know that if you suggest a track for me to react to, it will take me a while to get around to it, as you know, I get suggested dozens of new tracks every single day, and my list of tracks grows faster than I can record the videos. So rest assured, I do write down every suggestion I get. It will just take me a while to get around to it, but it will get done eventually. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. They are a British-based charity whose aim is to put an end to hate crimes, specifically, you know, mainly those that are aimed at people of the alternative subculture, whether you're listening to alternative music or alternative clothing. I mean, obviously they want to put an end to all hate crimes, but the main reason for the foundation coming into being is because of attacks on people of the alternative subculture. You know, and it's something that doesn't get the recognition it deserves or the recognition it needs. Because every single day we hear about hate crimes against, like, religious people. We hear about homophobia, we hear about racism, we hear about transphobia, you know, we hear about these sorts of hate crimes every single day, but the ones that go unheard of or unrecognised are the ones where people are getting physically and verbally attacked every single day just because of the choice of music they listen to and the choice of clothing that they wear. And this does happen every day. It happens all the time. I mean, every time I step out of my house, or not so much anymore, but that's because I live in a very quiet little village on the arsehole of nowhere. But when I was living in bigger towns and cities and stuff like that, I couldn't go outside my house without something being yelled at me. You know, without someone driving past in the car and shouting, "Oh, goth," at me out of the window, even though I am clearly not a goth. You know, I would be walking down the street and people would throw stuff at me. You know, I'd be walking through town and people would ram me into shop fronts and pushed into doorways, pushed into lampposts, you know. And it's not only me that this happens to, obviously. Many of my friends have been through this. I'm sure many of you watching have probably had a similar experience at some point. And this happens every single day, and people are getting violently attacked. My older brother at one point was violently attacked, and he was beaten so badly it was unreal. It's like they'd taken a baseball bat to him. And you know, there's other cases like what happened with Sophie Lancaster. This poor girl was beaten to death just because of the way she was dressed. And it was the same for my older brother. He was beaten to a pulp just because of the music he listened to and the way he dressed. You know, and it's the same with me. I've been attacked and beaten up multiple times just because of the music I listen to and the way that I dress. And it needs to stop. It's unacceptable. You know, you don't go down the street and beat someone up because they like cheese and onion crisps and you like salt and vinegar. You know, you don't beat someone up because they like a different flavour ice cream to you. You know, it makes no sense. It's pointless. It's senseless. And just beating someone up just because they like something different isn't going to change their mind. You know, you're not going to walk down the street and see a metalhead, beat 10 bales of shite out of them, and then they're going to go, "Do you know what? I like Ariana Grande." It doesn't work like that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's pointless. And it needs to stop. And, you know, this is the sort of thing that the Sophie Lancaster Foundation want to bring more attention towards and want to put an end to. Because, you know, this family had to bury their own child because of the pettiness and the intolerance of a group of teenagers, because they didn't like the way someone dressed and the music that they listened to, because their opinion was different to theirs. They thought it was acceptable for them to beat this person to death. You know, and nobody should have to go through that. Nobody should have to bury their child, ever, especially for such a stupid and petty, pathetic reason as that. You know, and I think it needs more recognition. It's something that really needs to be brought forward and have, you know, more light shine on it, because it's very important. You know, because like I said, this is happening daily. People are getting physically and verbally attacked daily because of this, and it needs to stop. If you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out exactly what their main target and goal is, because they can explain it so much better than I can without going off on random tangents and rants. And if you can help them in any small way, it's greatly appreciated. Even something as simple as one of the Sophie wristbands, you know, that would make all the difference. They've got other wristbands as well, and you know, they've got other merchandise as well, like beanies and shirts, I believe, stickers and patches and stuff like that. And you know, basically, any small amount helps. It makes all the difference, and it means everything. Because the more attention we can bring to this, the sooner we can stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.